Just recently, I celebrated 6 years working in real estate sales. Today, I want to share 6 lessons that I learnt over this time. It's funny how quick time flies by. It was just the other day I was reminded that I've now been in real estate sales for 6 years. And it got me thinking, what have I learnt over this time? There's been some really high highs, there's been some challenges, but overall I really have loved the last 6 years. And today I want to dive into 6 key lessons that I've learnt over that time, and hopefully it provides you a little bit of an insight, whether you're buying, selling, or simply in life. The first big lesson that I've learnt is to ask more questions. I think whether it's in a relationship, whether it's working with clients, whether you're buying something, whether you're selling something, asking more questions will always work out in your favour. The more you can work out what the other person's viewpoints are, the more you can get inside their mind, the better the chance of you actually achieving what you want to achieve and achieving the outcomes that you want to achieve. Whenever I go in to meet with people that are looking at selling, meet with buyers and are showing them property, I always know that I've had a good viewing or a good meeting when I've actually done very little talking. The more you can allow the client or the other person in the transactional relationship to talk, the more you can guide them with questions. Like I say, the more likely you are to actually achieve the outcome you want. I think the days of hard closing and hard selling are really over. And I think people don't like to be hustled. And like I say, the more questions you can ask, the more you can actually guide them to the outcome you want to achieve and essentially assist them in the process. So that's number 1 lesson I've learnt in the last 6 years, and that, put simply, is just to ask more questions. Number 2 is to create win-win situations. In any deal, in any transaction, in any interaction, there's always 2 or more people involved. And if you can create a win-win for both parties, the chances are that deal is going to be so much more beneficial for both, but also the chances of that deal surviving to the finish line are so much more improved. Whenever a deal's skewed too far in one party's favour or the other party, eventually someone's going to become bitter if they feel hard done by. So if you can create win-win situations, and this doesn't always have to be monetary, for property it may be a longer settlement, it may be a shorter settlement. There's other ways we can go about creating win-win situations other than just talking monetary value. So in any deal, in any transaction, that second big learning is to create those win-win outcomes, and this will really work in your favour. The third lesson, and this is a lesson I've sort of learnt the hard way this year, is predicting the market is almost a mug's game. Now, we can always look at sort of economic drivers, government policies, and use them to help guide us to a prediction. But I think the start of this year, March, April, when the Rona come and did its thing, personally I really thought the market was going to see some serious downturns, as did the big banks, as did the major media outlets. Big shot economists were just really talking almost total collapses. And the reality is, now that we're in October, everything's actually turned out a lot better than everyone thought. Government intervention stepped in, money, stimulus has been thrown at the economy, policies have changed, and buyers' situations have changed, sellers' situations have changed, and the real estate market's really remained quite buoyant. So from that, my big takeaway this year has just been trying to predict a market and make plans about a market is really a mug's game. You've really got to deal with the cards you're dealt at the time, and I guess at the end of the day, the trend is your friend. If the market is trending upwards, getting in on that. If the market's trending downwards, getting in on that. If you are trying to make these long-term predictions, it's very hard to be right. There's just too many variables at play, and too often things are changing. Number 4 is presentation really matters. And while this could be said to be true for a job interview, it's really important when it comes to selling property. Having a property presented well really is the make or break between achieving a premium price for a property or just managing to get a deal together. We've really started pushing into property staging this year, and the results we've seen have just been astronomical when looking at some of the comparable sales, having a property staged just really gives buyers something to look at, gives buyers something to touch, feel, and can really help them imagine themselves living in a property. So if you are looking at selling, that's definitely one of my big lessons I've learned over the last 6 years, and that is to present your property well. The fifth big lesson that I've learnt, and this might be a controversial one for a lot of people, but overpricing a property is actually more dangerous than underpricing it. We do a lot of Department of Housing sales, and these properties, essentially we get given what the list price has to be for those properties and what price we have to market them. These properties often come to market at a very, I'm going to use the word affordable price, and quite often go considerably over the asking price. We've had 2 properties this year that we've sold that have actually gone $30,000 over the asking price. Now, if these properties had been priced high to begin with, I don't think we ever would have seen this interest. Pricing a property competitively draws out the interest from the market, creates a competitive environment, and even if a property is priced too cheap, the market will actually price it up and buyers will start bidding over the top of each other and driving up the price. The inverse of this is when you put a property on the market too high, you simply don't get that interest. You get no one through the open home. Any buyers that do it and realise there's no competition, and they'll start lowballing you with offers. So I really, from experience, time and time again, know that if we price a property competitively, we're going to achieve a better result for our client. The property is going to sell quicker, and the vast majority of the time is actually going to sell more thanks to the competition that pricing creates. So that's a really important lesson that has taken a little while to learn, and it was only through a lot of sales and a lot of repetition that we've really seen that trend come out, that I really don't think you can underprice a property, because buyers will come in and start competing. Where the inverse of that, you overprice it, you'll have a dead no interest in it property, and trying to achieve a result is just so much harder, especially month 2 or 3 into the campaign when all that interest has disappeared. Trying to draw a buyer out of the woodworks is near impossible. The sixth and final lesson over the last 6 years that I want to talk about is there is an abundance of opportunity. Regardless of what you're doing, be it in the market for a property to buy, trying to sell a property and secure a buyer, on the hunt for a girlfriend or a new wife, regardless of what you're trying to do, if you actually start focusing on something, there really is an abundance of opportunity in the world. Especially here in Australia, we are sort of the land of opportunity. There is really so much happening that if you have got the mindset and you are looking in the right direction, I really do feel that once you start focusing, those opportunities do present themselves extremely quickly. So there you have it, guys. That's 6 lessons that I have learnt over the last 6 years. I hope some of them have brought some value to you and given you something to think about. If you have enjoyed this video, make sure you give us a like. And if you do enjoy this content, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel. Thanks for tuning in, guys, and have a fantastic week.